Hello, 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 and welcome to Poetry and Perspective with Placide. As usual, I am your kind hostess, Cindy Placide. Have you guys missed me? I certainly have missed you all, guys. It's been a few couple of weeks, and I love doing what I do, and I have surely missed you guys. I have not been on air for a minute, and so I'm telling you, sometimes life keep throwing curveballs. And in order for me to be fully functional for you, I have to take care of myself. I have to be fully functional for me first and take care of my overall health, especially my mental health. If that up there is not working right, nothing else is going to be working right. Okay. So I urge everyone to take some time off to care for your overall health, especially your mental health is very powerful, or else, guys, you are going to burn out. You are going to burn out. Okay. So again, thank you for being here with me. I do want to apologize for our domestic violence workshop. The speaker schedules were just not working out, but we're going to have the domestic violence workshop at a later date. So it is imperative that we do that. I want to say a pleasant good evening to everyone, first of all, in my beautiful Caribbean island of St. Lucia. Bonjour tout le monde, qui ça ka fait? Bonsoir, ça ka passé? Zo fouette, zo chaud? I hope you guys are doing well. I hope my family is doing well and everybody is just peachy. And if not, you are alive. It's a blessing and you live to see another day. So thank you so much for being family. I want to say a good evening to the people to my Caribbean sisters and my Caribbean friends. Thank you so much for viewing Poetry and Perspective with Placide. If you're here live, I want to say thank you for being here with me and to continue this journey. And if you're watching this later on, I would like to say thank you for taking the time out to view it. I promise you guys, the information that I am going to present with you, with my guest today, is going to be life-changing. And I know we have a short space of time, but I would like you guys to take time to ask questions and give your feedback, give comments, because it is important what we will share tonight. Okay, so before I continue with this introduction, I would like to go on my Facebook page to see my viewers and who is turned on for me to give them a proper greeting. So give me like a minute or two. Usually I say 1 second. I will not say 1 second anymore because a second comes really, really quickly. Okay, so let me go to my... All right, it looks like I am already on. Yay! All right, so I would like to say a pleasant good evening to Jamila. How are you, Jamila, sweetheart? I hope you are doing well. And for all those of you who I cannot see right now, I want to say a pleasant good night to you guys. For those in London who are taking the time out to watch this, I know it's late. Those in all parts of the world, my family part of the world, excuse me. Now, guys, my voice is terrible because I have a very bad cough and a very bad cold. So if you see me putting a mint in my mouth, I'm about to cough, and I have my tea as well. See? So I'm gonna be here doing what I want to do and doing what I love. So without further ado, for those of you who do not know, okay, I am from the beautiful, beautiful Caribbean island of St. Lucia. Okay, let me see if I can present this slide to you. I'm from the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Lucia. I am there we are. I am a poet. I am an author. I am an advocate. Oh gosh, my sweet fell. Would you believe this? That's not right. Yes, I'm a poet, author, advocate, and I advocate for different causes. Okay, but before I continue, I am a 3-time published author. My first book is entitled When Life Stood in Silence, and that book was born out of grief and loss and the different challenges I was facing at that time due to that situation. Okay, I pour my heart out into that book, and so I think this is one of my, I think number two is my favorite, but this is one of my most powerful book. Okay. And it touches on grief, loss, suicide, anxieties, and and so forth. Okay. So, my next book is entitled A Mighty Calm. So after I had been through all my problems and all my pains and everything, and I finally found myself. I was able to write my second book, which is entitled A Mighty Calm, and it's very motivating, it's very empowering, and it seeks to motivate other people and to find who they are, to tap into their true selves, okay? And to be the person that they know that they can be, all right? Sometimes we doubt ourselves. Not good to doubt. Sometimes a little doubt is okay, but you have to be confident in who you are as a person. And my third book is entitled What the Skies Told Me. And there I was just free from, I'm not saying free from stress, but I'm at a better place. And it's a very soothing book on reflection. And it is really, really an amazing book as well. I have not promoted this book too much, but I'm hoping that, I can do more with it. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for being here. My advocacy centers on so many things, but these are what are dear to me. Mental health awareness, autism. Why mental health? I'm going to go why mental health because because of my own challenges, I had to bring awareness to mental health because sometimes it's taboo, especially something back in St. Lucia. People look at it as taboo and on other Caribbean islands, and we need to be able to understand that it is not a race thing. Mental health is everywhere in the world, okay? And we need to look out for each other. I advocate for autism because my youngest son, of course, you all know his name, Noah is autistic, okay, and he was diagnosed when he was 2 years old. So that was a process for me to be able to really understand him, understand who he was, understand the different ability. I don't like to call it a disability, the different ability, and to be able to connect with him as my son and to appreciate him for who he is. And I also advocate for dwarfism awareness because for those of you who do not know, I have a daughter. I had a 2-month-old daughter who passed away from a rare, well, it's not rare anymore, from a genetic disorder called thanatophoric dysplasia. And usually they give their children like about 3 days to live. My daughter lived 2 months, and there are children who are living way older than that. So I also look out for pregnancy and child loss. Of course, that's my place. Domestic violence, I've been through it. Sexual assault, rape and sexual assault, Alzheimer's and dementia, breast cancer, epilepsy, cervical cancer. Actually, this month is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. Of course, I'm a poet. I will advocate for poets and for artists like myself. And of course, I do have a friend of mine who we do grief counseling. We got to get back in it, Jamila. Yes. When you're ready, okay. And of course, I do shows for people around the world who cannot be on here at night and it's too late. Then I try to do global link where I tap into other countries who have people like myself who are willing to tell their story, and we've had some very powerful stories. Okay, so this is where I am. Let me see who I have here again. So actually, this is all we have. This is who we have here. So thank you so much for being on here. Now, guys. Let me get my tissue. Okay. I hope I can mute out myself when I cough. All right. So this is basically in a nutshell what I do. Okay. I am also on the board for a group of ladies talk in New York, the New York chapter, and then where we help empower women to be the best possible. A lot of us are going through different challenges, and sometimes we need an outlet. We need a place to call home without feeling judged. Okay, so we that's where Ladies Talk comes in. So it is I've come to this group and it is such an amazing group. I love the ladies here. I love their personalities, and it's so amazing to see different personalities and different to hear different stories of women and their resilience. Okay, so it's absolutely amazing. And then if you are a woman and even a man and you want to join the group and you want to, support us making donations, whatever, hey, feel free to look at our Facebook page. Our CEO and founder Sanu will be more than happy to reach out to you. All right, and so forth. Guys, my throat is hurting me so bad. I feel like I'm literally like somebody taking my a greater, just great my throat. I do have my own, thing in there. But guys, that is it in a nutshell for me tonight. I am waiting for my guest. Oh, he just popped in. Okay, so so tonight, like I said, I have a guest on here with me. Let me take a sip of tea because my throat is on fire. Okay, so and his name is Carl Brown Jr. And I'm not going to tell you what he does, but I'm going to give you just a little bit about what he does. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh. He's a professional licensed underwriter advocate for seniors. Okay. And he has so many years of experience. He's been licensed since 1996. Okay. And he works in so many different states. I'm going to let him tell you that. And I'm going to let you tell you what he offers. He's a father of two amazing children and a beautiful wife. He also is, let me see if I can pull up that screen for you. He also is, he's a grandfather to two amazing little girls. They are so adorable. And, let me see if I can pull up the slides guide. And so Carl is a well respected. He is well respected for what he does. He's a very reliable person, and I can attest to that. So without further ado, let me see if I can share. Yeah, this is his family and this is his credentials. So if in case you want to swipe back, swipe back and fella where he does, hey, we got it there for you. Okay. So let me stop sharing, and without further ado, let me bring the gentleman on, Mr. Carl Brown. Good evening to you, Mr. Brown. Your mic is muted.
Hey, Miss Cindy, how are you? Can you hear me
I'm
okay?
doing, yes, I can hear you perfectly. I'm doing absolutely amazing. How about you?
Doing pretty good. I cannot complain. Standing firm. Doing well. And that was a really nice introduction. Thank you so much. Those kind words. I really appreciate you and all that you're doing and all that you're doing in the community. Well respected yourself, and I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Listen, I said I'm doing amazing. Listen, I'm,
Yeah, I hear you
I'm doing
coughing.
amazing. That's the
Oh,
spirit, right?
sound like you got a cold.
Yes, I do. I'm gonna put. Oh, that's second one. I'm gonna put this in my mouth. So excuse me, okay? Let me say hello to my viewers. Who do we have here? We have Mikey Felicia. Good evening, and we have Diane Butler. Hi, Diane. How are you? Mama is watching. Yes, Mama is watching. Okay, so please let the comments come in. All right, and put this in my mouth. Okay. So, Carl,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm about to make you laugh. We're about to get serious.
Okay.
I will not keep it serious, okay? But I'm gonna make you. We're gonna have fun, okay? While we give that information to the viewers, okay? So,
Mhm,
tell us a little bit about yourself. First, your upbringing,
mhm.
and where you from. Just a little
Okay.
bit about that.
Um. Yeah. You kind of opened it up there a little bit. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Um, I won't tell you how old I am, but you could probably imagine a little older than most. Um, I did have the privilege of meeting my high school sweetheart uh, in November in the fall in chorus class, and we just celebrated 30 years of marriage. We have two amazing and beautiful children and two beautiful grandbabies, as you mentioned. And thank you so much for your kind words regarding them. They absolutely love you. Um, I'm a professional licensed field underwriter. That's what I do. I'm licensed in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, DC, um, and Pennsylvania. And I'll soon be picking up my license because I have people reaching out to me in different parts of the country, in New Jersey and Maryland and Florida and different places. So that's a little bit about me. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. So you know they say Philly has this really tasty Philly cheesesteaks.
That's what I'm told, but I'm on the other
Tell
side.
us.
I'm on the other side of the state,
You're on
Pittsburgh.
the other side. Okay. But okay, good. So tell us about your favorite food because you know food is I won't
Yeah,
say much.
I've been to Philly on a few occasions for business and pleasure. Um,
Mhm.
and they do have some amazing cheesesteaks. Everywhere else in the country, if you haven't had a Philly cheesesteak, then you really ain't doing it right. But in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, um, it's a wide variety of tastes. I love Italian cuisine. Um, but my favorite food, Cindy, to your question, is probably crab legs. I love a
I gotta
sea.
say no to your house.
Yeah, I love crab legs. I love seafood. In
Mhm.
particular, yeah, that's one of my favorites. I am very fond of spaghetti too. My wife makes a mean spaghetti.
Mhm. I gotta come for dinner.
Work that out.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. That is amazing. You know, it's always good to have your favorites. I know for me, I'm an island girl from the Caribbean. You know, you can take the island, me out of the island, but you can't take me out of there. So I love what we call green bananas, green figs and saltfish. It's green bananas with salted codfish, and then we wash it nicely, and then we season it, and we cook the banana with its skin or with or without, and then we season it very well, put some vegetables on there, and then we eat it. Oh my gosh, it's
You know what?
yes.
What being from I've been here in Georgia now, what, 23, 24 years, something like that. And
Hmm.
one of my best friends, one of my childhood friends, I mean, we've been knowing each other since we were like 5 years old.
Hmm.
His family's from Alabama, so they eat everything breathing. Uh,
Hmm.
I'll say that. And he introduced me to oxtails, and I said, there ain't no way in the world I'm eating nobody's tail. And when I came to Georgia, I met two gentlemen from the islands, from Kingston, Jamaica.
Hmm.
And when they introduced me to oxtails, I haven't been back since. And that was 23 years ago. So that is one of my favorite meals also. Yeah.
You got stuck like Chuck.
Stuff like rice and peas, a lot of gravy, and oxtail.
Eh,
Woo.
yes, that's
That's it.
beautiful. Sweet, sweet food. Okay. Well, I'm sure we have some people salivate. How do you say that word again? I forget it. My brain not going right.
Salivating.
So some people mouths are dripping right now. All
Yes, ma'am.
right. So tell us a little bit about. I'm sorry if I cut you off, but tell us a little bit about You say you've been in your career for a long time.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about, not too detailed, but enough to tell us a little bit of what you do and how it works.
So the firm that I work for is amazing and is unlike any other firm. And there's three major things that we do that, in my experience, I've never seen it done by any other company. In my experience, and I've been doing this for some time. Um, we actually shop your funeral. Literally, how you go to Publix or Sam's Club or whatever, Costco, whatever is in your area. You know, we literally shop your funeral. People don't realize that that's a thing. Um, and why do we do that? Because we're concerned about um, funeral fraud. A lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, your funeral directors, there's three C's: chaos, confusion, and conflict. Once those things are elevated, um, they pretty much write their ticket in terms of what your funeral for your loved one is going to cost. And that's called
Mm,
funeral fraud. That's taking advantage of families. So we don't We're advocates for seniors. We can help anyone from 1 month old to 80, right before your 86th birthday. Most
Wow.
companies stop at 80, most, but we can help you up through your right before your 86th birthday, day before. So we shop your funeral. That's one thing we do that's different from anyone else. We also have the ability to save families 30 to 40% on their merchandise. Cindy, that's a big deal. So you're talking about a average traditional earth burial, which is anywhere between 8 to 15,000, somewhere. And we said, well, why is there a range? Because it's a business. It's a business.
Mm-hmm.
The funeral industry is a business. And so what one state charges may be different from another. What one funeral home charges may be different from the one across the street or in the next neighborhood over. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
business. So we're able to save you 30 to 40% on the family's expenses. Um, and the way that we do that is we're partnered with an organization that's a sixth generation funeral director organization. That's all they do. So who better to communicate on behalf and advocate on behalf of the family than a funeral director talking to your funeral director, right? Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? So
Yes.
shop your funeral. We can save the family 30 to 40% on their expenses. Um, and then there's some other things that we do that are quite unique, unlike any other company. One of my favorites is the death benefit pays within 24 hours of validation of death. I'll repeat that because I saw you kind of look over your glasses. So
Yes, I had to.
most insurance companies, Cindy, it might be days, it might be weeks, it might even be months before the benefit actually pays out, right? And things start to go into probate around month number 6, which means everything is
Wow.
locked. Well, when you go to the funeral director, they don't want their money days later, weeks later, or months later. In fact, they typically have a charge that they charge the family for storage after 3 business days, typically. Um, and that could be quite expensive depending upon how that span of time draws out. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen families that lost loved ones and it was 6, 7 months later before they were taken care of. Yes, yes.
What?
It every
So
exactly.
let me just chip in for a minute. So make me understand this. Somebody dies,
Hmm.
okay? There are families who are grieving. There are
Hmm.
families who need closure just to start living life again, even if it's not gonna be completely closure. You understand?
Hmm.
And you mean to tell me it will take up to 6 months for them to get the money? Why not tomorrow?
In some cases, well, if you're working with my firm that I represent, then that's what your family is going to be dealing with. It'll be within 24 hours of validation of death. Now, let me classify that a little bit for some of the viewers who might not really understand what I'm saying. There's a thing in the insurance industry called contestability. So
Mm-hmm.
when you do your application has got to be truthful because if it don't come out in the wash, it's going to come out in the rinse. So what do I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So whatever you put on your application, once there's a claim, that's what they're going to go by. So they're going to look at something called your MIB report. It's like your medical credit history, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you said on your application that you didn't smoke, or you didn't have cancer, or you didn't have COPD, or you didn't have this, that, and the third, but yet your cause of death indicated that you did, that could be problematic for your family.
Mm-hmm.
So contestability, the time period is a 2-year window. So if you do an application January 1 and you die within 24 months of January 1, then that claim will be contested by the insurance company. And every insurance company across the planet does, at least in the United States, they will
Mm-hmm.
contest your claim if there's a need for them to do that. Anything outside of that, your benefit is being paid within 24 hours of validation of death. So I'll tell you a really, really, really quick story. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my dad passed away at 4 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
sadly. December
I'm
the,
sorry to hear that.
thank you, thank you. December
Mm-hmm.
the 30th, 2023. Roughly 6:30 a.m., 7 o'clock, hospice was at the house validating death. He was on hospice, so we knew. At roughly about 9 o'clock, the funeral directors picked my dad up, but I had already called the insurance company at 5 a.m. By 12 o'clock p.m., same day, my dad's death benefit was in my mom's bank account where it was supposed to be. Because when we walked into the funeral home that following Tuesday, because Monday was January the 1st, it was New Year's. So, and on Tuesday the 2nd, that money was already in my mom's bank account the same day my dad died.
Now
There's
that's
not,
good business.
yeah, there's not an insurance company that I'm
Mhm.
aware of that shops your funeral, saves you 30 to 40% on your merchandise. Well, where does that savings go? It stays in the pocket of your family where it's supposed to, not in the funeral director's pocket. And then three, that benefit pays within 24 hours of death, as long as it's not a contestable.
So, what if somebody dies on accidental death?
Ah, that
Let's
is a
say, for
power.
example, I got the life insurance, and then tomorrow I just fall, I'm dead. So, are they still going to pay that money?
That's a
Your
fantastic question.
company?
hmm that's really a fantastic question. I apologize. I'm getting text messages
That's okay.
as I'm speaking to you.
Mm,
But fantastic question. So with the firm that I represent, if you die accidentally, most companies have a rider or an accidental rider that they can add to your plan. We're no different, right? But when we present our information to you, it's typically going to include your accidental coverage or your accidental provision, unless the client says, you know what, I don't feel like I need that, just let it go. Well, why is it important to have it? Um, I want to tell you another story to
Go
prove
ahead. Go
the
ahead. Yeah. We
um,
love stories here.
so I'll tell you the story first, and then I'll break down how it works, at least with our firm. If you die
Mhm.
accidentally, my uncle, and this was all in the news a couple of years back on Sugarloaf Parkway, early in the morning, was on his way to dialysis treatment. He and his wife. There was a young person, and I apologize if there's young people on the call listening to us right now, because quite frankly, older people are texting and driving too. That's just
Mhm.
real. Well, and what happened was a younger gentleman was driving an 18 wheeler, crossed over the median, and hit my uncle head on. And they
Wow.
had to life flight him to Grady Hospital. And
Mhm.
um, that accident was the last thing he remembered. He was on life support for 6.5, 7 days, and then he finally expired. Now, his wife, she broke her collarbone, her thigh bone. She had a variety of internal damages, broke her back. Now, I told you earlier, I'm from Pittsburgh. Well, my uncle's from Pittsburgh. My grandmother owned cemetery property. So one of the plots next to her was for my dad and his two remaining brothers, because his oldest brother was already next to her. He died in
Mhm.
Vietnam. Long of the short, um, that was an accident that death was the end result for him. So without accidental coverage, especially when a person passes away and they want their remains to be moved from one state to the next, we can't just put you in the back seat and and
Mhm.
and drive you across county line. We can't do that. That's against the law. You'll go to jail for that. So in our particular family case, it was roughly about 7 grand to prepare my uncle with a funeral director here in Georgia, and then ship his remains to Pennsylvania across country over 900 miles, give or take, and then put him to rest. That expense by itself was over $7,000. With our company, if that happened, um, the caveat is if you pass away 200 miles or more away from home. If you die accidentally, your beneficiary will receive your actual death benefit, whatever that amount is, but they'll get a separate check or a separate deposit of accidental. So in our case, I'll give you an example. if you die accidentally and you have a $10,000 policy, your
Mhm.
beneficiary will get $10,000 plus an additional $40,000.
Wow.
If they pass away as because of an automobile accident, it's double indemnity. So now it's 80,000 plus the 10, whether they were at fault or not. If they pass away from what's called common carrier, that's where it's basically any form of public transportation, Cindy. So plane, train, cruise ship, Uber, taxi, Lyft, whatever, anything public transportation. Or if there's an act of war or terrorism, like the insurrection, January 6th, a few years back, or
Mhm.
9/11, or some other act of war terrorism, it's quadruple indemnity. So now it's $160,000 plus the 10,000 death benefit. So when you ask, why do I really need that? There are more people today. In fact, I could tell you how many people died today. I know that's kind of,
Mhm.
I don't, kind of gruesome, but nonetheless, how many of those people died because of an accident?
Mhm.
A lot, a
Yeah.
lot. And so we feel like it's a provision that should be offered to our policyholders. And so we show them what that looks like, and 10 times out of 10, they never say no. They never
Oh,
say no. Yeah.
all right.
I
Thank
know
you.
that
Well, go ahead.
I know that was a long example, but that's the best way to be granular. That's the best way I can explain it.
It's
But
good. We love that because it helps people the viewers understand exactly what you're talking about.
mm,
Guys, my resilient risers, we are watching Poetry and Perspective with Placide, and my guest here is Mr. Carl Brown. He's a licensed specialist in, am I saying it right?
yes,
I'm not my note. He's a licensed specialist, an underwriter, and he's a licensed specialist for funeral coverage. I hope
yes,
I said that right. Funeral advantage. Yes, yeah. I'm still getting used to it.
it's a mouthful, but
Yes. So let me give you a little joke, right? Oh,
okay.
before I go ahead, let me say hello to my new viewers. So we have Savannah. Brown is watching. Good night, Savannah. Say hi to your dad. And we have Sunyu. Sunyu is watching. Hello, Sunyu. How are you doing? I hope you're feeling better, sweetheart. Yes. So let me give you a little joke, right? So I went to New York this past week. So when I spoke to Carl, I did get my coverage right away. So when I spoke to him, he said, "Oh, wonderful time to get it." So when he came and we were going through the papers and whatever, I'm gonna wait a minute. He said, "One time, am I gonna die or something on a
Yeah, that, that
plane?"
was that was funny. That was funny.
Yeah, but it shows that how important it is for us to have um funeral coverage.
Yeah,
I've never heard of people getting of their money 24 hours
yeah,
because sometimes people have to fight those insurance companies just to get, how they call it in St. Lucia, a little kakada, just a little bit of money. And and the funeral expenses are so expensive.
they are.
It is so much. So I wanted to ask you, right?
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you, um, what are some of the oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh my god.
What are some of the charges for a funeral? Is that what you're going to say?
Yes, yes, that's it. Thank you.
That's a fantastic question. And here's the thing
Yes.
for all of the listeners, Cindy. That's really a beautiful question. Most people that I talk to, most people that don't do what I do, they don't have a clue until they're in front of a funeral director. And so the best conversation to have, which is a free conversation, is with me, the field underwriter. Because when you're in front of the undertaker, it's a different kind of
Mhm.
situation. And they want their money right now. So just as an example, on average, funerals range anywhere between these are traditional earth burials. There's a
Mhm.
lot involved with that, right? There's a lot involved with that. So on average, 8 to 15,000. Some of the expenses that you're going to incur, the first thing you're going to have is a professional contract of the funeral director. So, and that could be anywhere between $2,000, maybe three or four, depending upon where you're at in the country, right? So there's that. Then there's embalming. If you're having a traditional earth burial, you're probably going to have a viewing. Not in all cases, but in most cases. And so where there's a viewing, there's embalming. Embalming is typically anywhere between $500-$600 to as much as $1,000. From in my case, for my dad, it was $1,000, and that was in Pennsylvania. But I'm here in Georgia. It ranges. There's preparations for the body that you have to be concerned with. What are you talking about? Well, they're going to have you looking like a rock star. So there's makeup, your hairdo, your clothes, dressing, grooming, all of that, and that could range from $350 to $500. There's the facilities that you're renting out that you have to be concerned with. Then there's the staff that work in that facility that support and assist your funeral director. That could be $500 to $1,000 just to pay the staff. In fact, Cindy, it costs more on the weekend than it does during the week for a funeral. Oh yeah, because they got to pay them overtime. Yeah, there's a lot more involved.
That's crazy.
It's very crazy. Yeah, but again, it's a business. It's a business.
Yes.
And for people who are not familiar with these types of things, once there's chaos, confusion, and conflict, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you're just giving the bag right to the funeral director because he said that's what the price is going to be. That's what you need. If you don't know, if you don't have an advocate, then it's going to be what it's going to be, and you're taken advantage of. You also have the removal of the remains, the transfer of the remains. So wherever they deceased from or at, they got to transition them to the funeral home. That could be $300, $400, or $500, depending upon what funeral home you're doing business with across the country. That's the average. You have the hearse that's going to carry the remains to the gravesite, whether it's in the earth or in a mausoleum. I always say that word wrong, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. The hearse is $500 to $800 on average. Then you have the limousines. A real quick story. Head of the family dies, as an example. They ask the son. Well, his son tells him, "Well, we got a really, really big family, so we got a big family." So he says, "Well, we got a fleet of 10 limousines." He said, "Well, we got a big family." Now, they never agreed to how many limousines they were going to literally roll that day. When he got the bill after the funeral, $500 per limousine. So take 500 times 10. They only used one limousine. The son, his wife, and their children were in a limousine. Everybody else drove their own vehicles. But when they looked at the bill, they were charged for 10 limousines at $500 a pop.
That is highway robbery.
That's called funeral fraud, highway robbery. I totally agree. But again, if you don't have an advocate that's, combing through these things, your family will be taken advantage of. And then you also have programs, the flyers, or excuse me, the flowers. Those are two of the most expensive things. $1,500 to $2,000. It just depends on what the family wants. You
Yes.
typically have a flower arrangement on the casket, one at the head and one at the foot. But if they want additional things, that could be $2,000-$3,000 easy. And we haven't even talked about the casket yet.
So hold on. It looks like every move they make, they even put a flower on the flower thing. You gotta pay a penny.
Cindy, they charge you for literally lowering the casket into the earth or putting it into the mausoleum. Yeah, there's a charge for that. Everything has its separate charge. Everything. And again, we haven't even talked about the casket. And there's a 16 gauge, an 18 gauge, and a 20 gauge casket. The lower the number, the better the quality of steel, stainless steel, copper. Then you get into your woods, your cherries, your oaks, your walnuts. Your walnuts are some of the most, well, they're actually the most expensive casket that I'm aware of. They start around $20,000. Those are the caskets that they bury dignitaries in. $20,000. That's a lot of money to put into the ground for all intents and purposes.
So hold on a second. Hold on 1 second. A woman like me, huh? I ain't got that kind of money. So if I go and I don't have you as my advocate, I'm already claiming you, right? If
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't have you as
Yeah.
my advocate, so
Right.
they are going to charge me for every little thing.
Every little thing. And we haven't, Cindy, we haven't even talked about, we haven't talked about the casket. They
Before you talk about the casket, hold
okay.
that thought.
Okay.
Hold that. Okay?
Okay.
I want to let you guys, I am speaking to a renowned specialist in his field. He has been in his field from 1996. Am I correct?
That is correct. That's when I was initially licensed back
Yes.
home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. That's where I was first licensed. Yes. And the firm that I'm with now, I partner with them in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and I will not go
Okay.
anywhere. Mhm.
So we are speaking to Carl Brown, and he's a licensed field undertaker. He's licensed in so many different states.
Field Underwriter.
Underwriter. Oh, sorry. No.
I'm not
I'm
the
Daddy.
My conversation
No, we're
is
not dealing with the dead. Okay.
no problem.
Goodness. So let me say good night and let me see some of the comments that we have because we have to acknowledge our viewers. Okay.
Okay.
For all of you who are tuning in, thank you so much. Let me see some of the who we have here. We have Lucy Eugene. Good night, Lucy. How are you, sweetheart? We have Nayoka Fred watching from St. Louis. Hey, girl, it's a long time. Wow. So we have Stephanie Brand. Oh, this is the wifey. So the wifey have a question.
Okay.
So she asked, before I go ask a question, let me say let me acknowledge the other guests. We have Lauren Dorville watching from London, England. So good night, sweetheart. And we have Ladred Mazzini. How are you doing, my friend? I hope everything is okay. So Stephanie's question was, how much is the average cost of cremation in Georgia? But before you
Wow.
answer that question,
Yeah.
tell us about the multi-million dollar making company of the box. We just going inside.
Say that one more time. I did. You're
Tell
you're
me about the multi-million dollar company, the box. They're charging us the multi-million dollars to go inside the coffin. Tell us about the
Oh,
prices of the
yes,
coffin.
yes,
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 yes.
yes, yes. So again, you have uh, three different gauges of caskets: a 16 gauge, an 18 gauge, and a 20 gauge. And most funeral directors won't share that with you. Um, they're just gonna, they're gonna. Your experience is going to be what it's going to be. Without an advocate, you could be taken advantage of. So you need to ask questions. Um, the lower the number, the better the quality of steel. So again, you have stainless steel, copper, and then you get into your woods, cherry, oak, maple. The walnuts are the most expensive. They start at 20,000. The walnuts do. That's what they bury dignitaries in. Your average casket cost, Cindy, is anywhere on the low end about $2,000, maybe 2,500, to as much as 20,000 plus dollars. That's just the casket, and we haven't even talked about the cemetery charges yet. We haven't even talked about that. So without an advocate, you're looking at 8 to 12,000 when they break everything down. Once you select an actual casket, my company, Cindy, you might not know this, you might not know this, but did you know that you can go into Sam's Club, you can go into Walmart, you can go into, I hope I'm okay to say this. These are common everyday stores, Amazon even, and buy your own casket or urn. Now, you cannot physically walk in there and see caskets and urns. No, but if you go to their website and type in the search field caskets, they'll show you what they have available to you. And they're able to ship those to you pretty quickly. And our company does the same with bestpricecaskets.com. There's a few different manufacturers across the country that if the family doesn't like the selection they see, and more importantly, if they're interested in saving money, that $5,000 casket, if you could get it for $500, why would you not? And it's shipped to the funeral home. And because of the funeral rule, 1984 funeral rule, it's a law passed by Congress. The funeral directors got to accept it. They don't have the option of turning it down, nor can they charge you additional miscellaneous charges to try to make up the lost cost that they just experienced, if that makes sense, right? So you're looking at about 8 to 12,000 before you even get to the casket.
I am betting you they are not going to tell you these things.
I want to say something. There's a thing called a GPL, a general price list, that
Okay.
when you walk into the funeral home, the funeral director should be handing that to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for your loss, Cindy. Can we get you something to drink? Maybe even something to eat. It just depends on what they got going on there, you know. But one of the first
Hope they're
questions,
not charging you for that too.
you never know. It's a business. And then they ask you, well, did the deceased have life insurance? And
Mm-hmm.
they're hoping that you tell them yes. And they're
Mm-hmm.
hoping that you brought the policy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another conversation. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
get that in a minute. But if you don't have an advocate or an advocacy group that is going to do all of the heavy lifting for you,
Mm-hmm.
we don't make any decisions for you. We don't. We just advise because we know every funeral home on every corner what their pricing looks like. And those that we don't, we literally go online and we can see what they offer. And so if Funeral Home Alpha is charging you $15,000 for your funeral to include the casket, when you have our backing, we're going to negotiate that down where you then save 30 to 40% on that cost. And that can be tremendous. Most families, you said it earlier, most families don't have 5, 10, 15, $20,000 sitting under the mattress somewhere or in a safe somewhere waiting for that day to come. In fact, most seniors that I talk to 10 times a day, they don't even have any planning. So we're doing this at age 60, 65, 70, 80, where most companies are saying, "Oh, you're too old now. We can't help you." You know. So now I think you asked me a minute ago what was the cost at the cemetery?
The
Was that
average cost of cremation in Georgia.
oh the average cost of cremation in Georgia? So first of all, there's three different types of cremations. Three.
Mm-hmm.
There's basic cremation. You go right from place of deceasing to the crematory. There's no viewing. There's no memorial. It's just cremation. So your loved one has a few authorization forms to sign and fill out. Afterwards, the crematory will ask if you want to, or they may do it ahead of time. If you want the remains provided, they'll provide the remains in an urn, and you're on your way. That could be as little as $600 to as much as $1,500, depending upon what funeral home you're or what crematory you're doing business with. The complete opposite spectrum of that is a full-blown funeral, like a traditional. So envision in your mind a full-blown funeral. The body is there. There's a viewing. There's a memorial. You know what, Cindy? Every day that there's a viewing, there's an additional charge. Like if you want a viewing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, funeral on Thursday, are they gonna charge you for that? They're gonna charge you for that. So if you have a full funeral, but rather than going to the cemetery after the funeral, they then cremate. But because your body was on display, you got to rent a casket. What do you mean rent? Well, you rent a casket and they take it out of circuit, or they take that casket after your family's done with it and put it back in inventory for the next family to either use it for burial or to have a viewing for somebody else. You got to rent a casket, or you can purchase a casket, normally wood, that can be cremated along with the body, or there's a box. So for all of our viewers, imagine the TV that's in your living room. When you bought it from wherever you bought it, whether you picked it up or whether it was delivered, what did it come in? It came in a box. So you can actually buy a box, a cardboard box that will be cremated along with you. And that can be as much as $1,200. I've seen them even $1,500, $1,700. To rent a casket, $2,000, $3,000 just for a few hours. Yeah. So there's three cremations. There's the basic. The other full end of the spectrum is a full funeral, but you cremate afterwards. That could be anywhere between 8 to 15,000, and that price has escalated since COVID. And then there's the middle cremation, where you're having a memorial service. So everything in number three, the full funeral, except the body is not present. So you're renting the facility, you're renting the staff, but the body is not physically present. But even with that, you're looking 3,500, maybe $8,000, depending upon what all is involved.
For a
So
box, for a box that I can go to Walmart and buy for. I'm sorry.
yes, ma'am.
This
Yes, ma'am.
one really got me when we had our conversation. We're like, a cardboard box and you go charge me $3,000.
If the viewers are finding what I'm saying hard to believe, go to your local funeral home and tell them we're planning. Nobody's died, but we're planning. Can you show me the merchandise room? And on one side of the room, they have everything for burial, and the other side of the room, they have everything for cremation. And it's a creepy place to be in, but at some point in time, unless this system ends sooner than later, we all going to experience that, right?
Yep.
And you'll go in and you'll make your selection. Yeah. So you
Wow. Let me see. Wow, this is just a lot. Let me see what some of the viewers have to say. Aaliyah said, wow, like you said, this is highway robbery. Hello, my daughter. And my cousin, Jules Naomi, she's watching from Canada. And she said, very informative. Thank you, darling. So, Mama, how are you? Diane Butler. She asked a very important question. She said, can you explain? And that's going to be one of my questions. Can you explain how you advocate for the client?
So when a client, that's a great question, and thank you very much for that. When a client has a loss, that client is typically doing everything. And while they're doing everything, they're still grieving. It's not pleasant. For anybody who hasn't lost someone, no. For anyone, if you don't have to go through that process of taking the lead, and you can give that to another family member that might be a little stronger than you are. We all have weaknesses, right? It's a difficult process. It really truly is. So you gotta organize everything, you know. And I'm talking, do you want the information to be put in the newspaper? Who's the funeral director? Who's the funeral home? What if you don't like that funeral home and you want to use a different one? You got to deal with that. Um, are there any bills that were left by the deceased? You got to settle those. It, Especially if there's large ticket items, like mortgages or property that are involved. You got to deal with that. Medications, you got to deal the charge cards. There was a client who passed away. He went into the hospital, I think it was like the first week of the month, but he didn't pass away until the following month. Well, at his apartment complex, they charged him rent still up until he actually passed away, even though he wasn't at home. He was in a hospital. You got to deal with expenses like that. You have to deal with people's final arrangements. It's not just at the cemetery. But then you got to figure out, well, what cemetery is it going to be? Do I want um, a plot? Do I have that already figured out? The vault, the opening, the closing, the marking, the markers, all of those things have to be planned out. And then you're talking about pricing. How do I know that the price points that I'm getting from XYZ funeral home or XYZ cemetery is like in my best interest?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to think, if you don't have any experience, that this is just what it is. That's why Mama got this plan for me to give to the guy to take care of all this. It's a lot of work. So to the question, our company does all of that heavy lifting for you,
Mm-hmm.
with you. I can remember when I first started with this particular company, because where I came from didn't do what we do. And I was going to a lot of funerals, and I would tell my clients, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to be at your funeral service or you're going to be at mine, in which
Mm-hmm.
case the company will replace me. It won't be me, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll replace me with someone else. And she said, can you stop telling people that? Because I know you mean that, and I do, and I have been to countless funerals. In fact, I went to one funeral where I was meeting my client in person for the first time at his funeral, because we did the application over the phone, and he died a week later, and that's when I physically met him. It's crazy. So the company advocates on behalf of the family, where all they have to do is show up and grieve, whatever that looks like for them. It's different for everybody. Everybody's level of grief, it's going to hit you eventually, but
Mhm.
everybody's level of grief is not necessarily the same. So we take the
Exactly.
heavy lifting off the table, and,
Mhm.
and carry that burden for the client, such that, again, we don't make any decisions for you, but we guide and direct. Okay, this company here is going to do the funeral for 15,000, but across the street they're going to do it for 7,500. Well, where does the difference go? It stays in your pocket. Why? Because you're not required to give the funeral director your policy. Because once you give them a $15,000 policy, guess what? That funeral, before you talked about caskets, was already 9,000. Now you're talking about a casket that probably he bought for 500, but he's going to charge you 5 grand for. So that $15,000 policy just became, you might get a little bit of change back, if you understand what I'm saying. So we advocate, we walk you through all of that. We also look at, remember I told you earlier, the family who, they said they had a big family. So they
Mhm.
took the whole fleet out of service for the family and charged them for 10 different limousines.
That is so wrong.
It's so
And
wrong.
that is very deceitful.
And I agree. And the family was about to sign, and like, well, wait a minute, because we told them, before you agree to anything, before you sign anything, take a picture of the bill of sale, send that to us. Will give you a number. We provide you with a number to do that, and we will scan through. We will comb through that entire agreement before you sign anything, and negotiate those costs, because you don't want to find out after the service is done. You want to
Mhm.
find out going in before the service is done. So that's how we advocate for the family. We take the heavy lifting off of the table for the family, where all they have to do is grieve. So that's a great question.
Yeah, the questions are coming on. So you got some bit more talking to do. Listen, I knew I was going to get cold because of all of those questions I had.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
a little reminder, okay? So
Okay.
let me see who's watching. Kimmy J is watching. Rudy Tel Tel Aviva. He has a very interesting question, and we have another question I'm going to ask as well. He has, does funeral parlor has a plan where you pay for funeral monthly before you die?
That's a fantastic. So he's asking, do they, or he's telling me they do? Because the answer is
He asked a question. Do they have the
yeah.
funeral parlor have a plan? Yeah.
Yes,
Or
yes,
you pay funeral. Okay.
yes, ma'am. That's a great question.
Sir.
Most, if not all of them do.
Uh-huh.
It's called a pre-need plan.
Okay.
Pre-need, and you can go
Okay.
in your home today and tell them nobody's died,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to take care of this before the time comes. Oh, okay, no problem. And they'll show you everything. They'll map everything out, everything that you desire, and then they'll give you
Mm-hmm.
a price for that, and you pay on it monthly, like you do your car note or your rent or your mortgage or your phone bill. But what happens if you pass away before that balance is paid off? Do you think the deceased walks away? Well, he don't walk away. He's gone, right? That bill, the family is now responsible for that. They don't just dissolve that. So if you had a pre-need plan that was $8,000 as an example, and uh, they gave you whatever time period to pay it off from today, that the time you executed the plan until you need to exercise the plan, but you die before that, before it's paid off, and there's a balance, somebody's coming out of pocket for that balance. They don't just let that go. No. And that can be problematic for your family unless somebody is sitting around with one, two, three, $5,000, because
Yes.
and take care of the pre-need plan in full. That can be a problem.
Yeah. For the viewers who are watching, for those of you I cannot see on my screen, those of you who are watching in the background, thank you so much for watching Poetry and Perspective with Placide. I'm almost going to cough, but I'm going to try to hold it down. Um, yeah. So thank you for watching Poetry and Perspective with Placide. Okay. While you were speaking, I'm thinking there are families who have gone into bankruptcy
Mm-hmm.
to bury their loved one. There are families who are paying credit card
Mm-hmm.
because of burying a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And it saddens me that the word I want to say is not going to be, it's not a bad word, but yeah, thieves, I'm sorry.
Uh,
Do you have to comment? They are really rubbing people off because, and all I'm thinking, most of that money, it goes in their pocket.
a good bit of it. A good bit of it. So for our viewers, when I was in school, I was just okay with math. Once I got to algebra 2, it started to decline. I started to lose it all, right? So after that, so you need trigonometry to figure out some of these funeral contracts and how much money these funeral directors are making. So just say as an example, if you had an XYZ funeral home, and XYZ funeral home does 200 funerals a year, take that 200 times the average $10,000. That's $2 million, give or take. Does he put all of that in his pocket? No. He's got expenses to pay. He's got, supplies, and he's running a business, right? But a good piece of that, even if it was only 30%, is going in his pocket. That's
Like you said in the beginning, this is a money making business.
It's a money making business. There isn't a funeral director on the planet that I'm aware of that isn't a millionaire. Most of them are millionaires. And that's, we haven't even talked about, well, in depth when we got into it. We're not even considering, I should say, the cremation side. We're just talking about the burial side. Imagine the funeral homes who are bigger uh, and have multiple locations throughout the city. I know funeral directors that got funeral homes in Georgia, and they got the same location in North Carolina. They got the same location in South Carolina, in Tennessee. It's a business, right? So when you have a funeral home that's doing 1 or 2 funeral homes per day, it's a business. It's a business. So the more they do, the more they make. And we encourage people. The conversation with me is free. We encourage people to do your homework, get educated, prepare early, because there's 2 things that qualify you: age and health.
I was just about to ask you the question.
Yeah. When,
Yeah.
when we, oh, I'm young and I'm Superman and I'm going to be okay. Okay.
So
Not
on the flip side, what
Yeah.
would disqualify you?
So that's a great question, Cindy. I'm so glad you asked that. It's a great question. I get asked that every day. So there's a few things with my particular firm that will disqualify you. If you're HIV positive, you have AIDS or HIV, you have a terminal illness. Doctor said, you got 12 months, you got 24 months, you got a terminal illness, you're going to die in a certain period of time. That will
Mm-hmm.
qualify you. If you're physically on hospice at application, not prior to, but at
Mm-hmm.
application, or if you're physically in the hospital, you're disqualified. And then the other thing that will disqualify you too is if you're in prison, because we can't get access to you, right? So those are the things that would disqualify you. That's a great question.
So I'm gonna put this question
Mhm.
on the. I think it's important that you answer that question. Mrs. Brown said many people have life insurance through their jobs.
Uh-huh.
Do they still need your company?
That's an amazing question. I just had that question right before I got on the call. I was talking with a client, and he said the same thing to me. Teacher up in Pennsylvania, 25 years, and he said, my last name is Brown, so a lot of people just call me Brown. He said, Brown, I got this plan at work, and it's pennies on the dollar. I said, do you understand why it's pennies on the dollar? It's because it's group coverage. But when you retire, whether you're forced into retirement or whether you retire when you want to, that cost is going to escalate. And if you look at your actual policy, it'll show you at what age it's going to go from $50 a month for a certain period of time, 10, 15, 20 years while you're working. But then the year that you retire, it doubles to $100 a month. 2 years after that, that doubles to $400 a month, and it keeps doubling every year until you die. So that's called group coverage. So absolutely, should you have another company, what we do, excuse me, what we do actually complements what you already have. It doesn't replace, it complements, because those group plans, you might need to talk to your HR manager tomorrow and find out, if I die today, when is this going to pay out? And show me
Mm-hmm.
that in writing, because group plans typically take a period of time before they pay out. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to have something that pays right now, when
Mm-hmm.
whenever you need it, because the funeral director is not waiting. He's not, he or she, because there's many female funeral directors, and some of them are very, very good. They're not
Mm-hmm.
getting off of their behind until, excuse my French, but they're not getting up off their behind until they know where their money's coming from. They're not. They're telling you on the phone when you call and say, my loved one died. Do they have insurance? How old are they? What was the cause of death? How much do they weigh? Because I need to know, do I need to bring one person to pick them up, or two, or maybe three, depending upon how big they are? And do they have life insurance? Those are usually the 5 questions that they ask, right? They're asking you that before they even see your face, because they want to know where their money's coming from. So yes, having coverage, uh, a private firm on the side like us is highly recommended. We don't replace what you already have. What you currently have is probably going to pay when it's going to pay. So that means you're on the hook until it pays. Whereas if you're with us, this is going to pay within 24 hours of the passing, on claims that are non-contestable. So that's a great question.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's a great answer as well. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, I know a lot of people are coming in late as well. We are speaking to Mr. Carl Brown. Why am I calling you Brown? I'm sorry. You'll have to excuse me today, okay? All right. Thank you to Mr. Carl Brown. He is, let me put it on the screen because the brain won't remember. So he is a life insurance. He sells, well, don't sell a whole life. He presents to you what you need: whole life, final expenses, pre-existing conditions, immediate coverage. And this is number on the screen. You can call him today, and it's running, on the slides. So you can get in touch with Mr. Brown, and he's going to be more than happy to assist you. We are not done yet. I'm just making sure that for those of you who are coming in late, you know what we're speaking about. Okay. So let me get back to our full screen. So Mr. Brown,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to figure out how to really phrase this question. Okay.
Okay.
Without offending nobody.
Okay.
Sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain. Yeah, so I know you said a lot. Give me 1 second.
Get some water. A little bit of agua. You okay? You're drinking your tea. Okay. You have muted yourself.
Whew, that was fun. I told you I'm making fun. I'm just being who I am. Okay. So I know you said a lot today, and we can go. There's so much I want to ask you. And I don't want to keep you too long here, but I'm still gonna ask you a few little things, and then
Okay.
yeah. So and the questions, I think I'm gonna ask the questions from the viewers. I think that is more important right now
Okay.
for me to ask from the viewers. And
Okay.
so Martha said, "Hi Martha, how you doing, sis?" So I joined. She said I joined late. Bring me up to speed. Yeah, I think we just did. And Mr. Brown is he's working with the Lincoln Heritage Funeral Advantage. He's an underwriter. I said it right this time. And
Yeah.
Yes. So, Angela Ogis, thank you for coming on Poetry and Perspective with Placide. Now, let me see any more questions. Rudy said, very interesting to educate members of the public. Absolutely. And that is what I'm here for,
Hmm.
to educate and to bring issues to light that needs to, be addressed. Oh gosh, this is crazy. So, Diane said, I am 71 years of age. I am 71 years of age and I have many health problems. Companies have only offered me term life policies. What can you do for someone like me?
That's a fantastic question, Miss Diane. Thank you for asking that. So, as I mentioned earlier, there's only 5 things that's going to disqualify you with us: HIV or AIDS, you're on hospice, you're in the hospital, um, uh, uh, you got a terminal illness, or you're in prison. Those are the only things that are going to disqualify you. What most companies, to your question, will do is they'll give you a term policy, that as you grow older, the premiums will stay level for a short period of time, and then they start to escalate. And then when you get to a certain age, um, and there's some specific companies that do this to people all the time. You typically don't even see them. They send it to you in the mail. For this, it's called age bands. For this age band, 60 to 65, check that box. 65 to 70, check that box. For this amount of coverage, check that box. And they say guaranteed acceptance or guaranteed approval. But what you fail to read is that it's a 2-year wait. And oftentimes it's term. Sometimes it's whole life, but it's elevating as you get older. And then it has a cap that when you turn 80, it cancels. Well, what do you mean? Well, if you live one day longer, like 80 years in one day, they're going to tell you 6 months prior, your policy is going to cancel when you turn 80. So if you don't do anything else, and if you have all of those health challenges like you do, or some health challenges, um, but not the 5 that disqualify you, with our company, we will help you. We'll still give you coverage, and it will be whole life. And you'll still get the free advocacy, and you'll still get the accidental portion. Whereas with other companies, if it cancels when you turn 80, the best coverage for you to have is the coverage that pays when you pass away. Otherwise, your family's on the hook.
Yes.
So again, if you have a pre-existing condition and you want a company that pays their death benefit within 24 hours or less, you want a company that's going to help negotiate and save you 30 to 40% on your merchandising. You're interested in the accidental coverage. Um, we're the company that I'm the guy you probably want to talk to, because I can help you. I can help you help your family fix that. Because what people fail to realize, Cindy, is
Mhm.
this when your loved one passes away, that's the last time you're going to hear their voice. You understand what I'm saying? So this gift that you're giving them is your last gift prior to passing, that you're giving to your loved one, so that they don't have to figure it out. What if what if you wait? What if you do nothing? People tell me, well, I could just save up. Okay, how's that been working for you at 71? And even if you saved $100 a day, how many years is it going to take you to get to 8, 10, $15,000? Even if you saved at $100 a month at 71, even at 60, it's going to be very, very tough, because the cost of funeralization increases about 3.43% to 5%. So from 3.4% to 5%, every single year it increases. You think eggs and milk are expensive, and bread? To funeralize a person is quite expensive, and it's on the increase. It's on the increase. So I know I kind of went a little sideways with that, but if a
That's
person
good. That's good because you answered that question. And
pre-existing conditions,
yes, and Martha Elliott, she also asked, is he selling whole or term? So you answered that question.
Yes,
She
yes,
asked,
yes.
Martha asked, are you selling
Yeah,
whole?
whole life. Yes, whole life. Whole life is the option that we feel is more advantageous, really for anyone, but particularly our seniors. Um, because term, think about term. Term is short for temporary. Just like a presidential term is 4 years in the United States, term is temporary also. And typically, if you have one of those plans that's an age band plan for this age to this age, check that box, it's going to eventually escalate in cost and eventually time out when you need it the most. When you need, I can't tell you how many phone calls I get. Mr. Brown, I saw your my loved one died, and I found this packet of information on their desk. Can you please tell me if my dad and my mom, my brother, my sister, my uncle, my cousin, my grandmama, did they get coverage with you? I'm so sorry for your loss. Give me just 1 second and let's look it up. Let's look it up. And I can't tell you how many times that I have to tell people because they figure, oh, I'm going to save money, or I'll figure it out, or I'll let the family deal with it. That's the wrong attitude. That's not loving nor kind, right? I'm sorry, but your
Mhm.
family they didn't have anything in place. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you in the worst case scenario that you do know. Well, I think that basically based on everything you told me, it just answers the question in my head. Worst case scenario, you don't have insurance. Mm, okay. I'm not gonna say more. So go ahead.
Yeah, you really are shortchanging your family when we don't plan accordingly. And the best time to do that is when you're young. Yes, term is an outstanding product. It's typically, I won't say typically, I take that back. You Term is an outstanding product for a younger person, not a senior, a younger person just out of college, even just out of high school, where you have a large face amount. I'm talking a six-figure face amount or higher for really pennies on the dollar. And the reason why you get it when you're young, term that is because you want to be able to pay for the mortgage, you want to be able to pay off the car notes, you want to be able to pay off any school loans that may have existed. You still want to leave legacy to those that you're leaving behind. And if you were married, you want to be able, half of your income is now gone. Half of your household income is now gone. So what is that going to do to the mate, the surviving mate that's still there? Well, you want to have a larger face amount policy uh, to help them. It may not last the rest of their life, but it will help them. And that's why planning, early is really so critically important. But we deal with whole life. We deal with whole life. You can add children, um, grandchildren in particular, to your policy. I get that all the time.
Yeah, that was
Well,
one of the questions Diane asked. She asked, "Can I get a policy on my grown child?"
yes, yes, you can, and it's highly recommended. So that would be, in my humble opinion, everything that we've talked about. Would you not want your loved one, your grandchild, to get the same exact benefit as you? The accidental, the advocating, all of that. Um, and if you do, then we would encourage you to get an individual plan for them, a separate plan for them, not a rider along with your plan, right? But you can. So with our company, and it's not a one size fits all. Excuse me, it's not a one size fits all. It's not a check the box thing. We want to know before you are approved what you're dealing with health wise, not when you die. We need to know that today. Whatever
Mhm.
happens in your health, if it begins to decline after the policy is approved and issued, is neither here nor there because it's going to pay based on your health at the time that you did the application, if that makes sense. So you can get a policy for your grandchild. For every 5,000 in coverage, it's only $2. That would be term. That's a term rider, up to as much as 25,000. So for every 5,000, it's only $2. And whatever you
Mhm.
do for Johnny, you got to do for Sally, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Wow. Rudy asked, do you accept black clients from Canada?
Say that again.
Rudy asks, do you accept clients from Canada?
So, with the firm that I represent, we are physically in Canada. Rudy, if you want to give me a call, we can probably connect you. We can probably connect you to an agent in Canada. That shouldn't be a problem. Now, what you can also do, if you're not interested in doing that, if you want to work with me, um, what we may be able to do, if you have a family member in a state that I'm currently licensed in, and that family member is willing to be the owner of your policy. So there's four things: you're the owner, the payer, the insured, and then there's a beneficiary. So if you're in a part of the world that's not in our footprint, but you have a family member that is in our footprint, if they're willing to be the owner of your policy, then we can help you right now today.
Okay.
Otherwise, otherwise we find out where you're at and we can connect you to
Okay.
somebody. Yeah.
So I have two questions. Oh my God, the questions are coming. Drink some water. You go. So Aliyah asked, is a biometric done be oh my gosh, my eyes went up and down. Is a biometric done before you are approved, blood work, etc.?
That's a fantastic question, Miss Aaliyah. Thank you for asking. So the immediate answer with my firm, no. That's the short answer. With most companies, with most companies, especially the larger size policies, yes. So with us, there's no blood work, there's no urine, there's no number two, there's no height and weight, there's none of that. We have 12 health questions that we're going to ask you. Are you a smoker? Um, do you have terminal illness? Are you on hospice? Are you in a hospital currently? That's a disqualifying question. Those two, and then so as long as you know no to those, and then we get into the remaining nine questions. Even if you say yes to the remaining nine, do you have heart disease? Do you have liver disease? Do you have kidney disease? Do you have dementia, COPD, emphysema, but not asthma? Do you have complications of diabetes? Not do you have diabetes? Do you have complications? Well, what is that? I lost my sight. I have vision issues. I have liver or kidney disorder as a result of my diabetes. Those are complications. Even if you say yes to those questions, we will still help you. Absolutely. So no, we're not sending no doctor to your house to do a biometric screening on you. No, no.
Okay, wonderful. So Martha has a lot of questions. So I'm gonna ask her the question because she came in late, right? So I want you to go back to the beginning again. She asked, I'm gonna ask the question, then you're gonna answer, right?
Okay.
She asked, is he a funeral home or life insurance agent? I'm confused. I don't know underwriters are insurance agents also. Okay. So is he an underwriter or sales agent? is he is he's okay, I'm sorry. Is he his own sales agent and an underwriter? So explain to her what you do so she
So
could understand.
yes, ma'am. So that's a great question, Martha, and thank you for that. No, I don't own a funeral home. No, I don't work at a funeral home. As a matter of fact, our firm is not pro this funeral home or that funeral home. All we're concerned about is you getting the best possible price point for your family when that time happens, right? I am a licensed field underwriter in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, uh, DC, and Pennsylvania, my home state. And there's a few other states that I'm currently applying for licensing in other cities and states. So no, I don't. I don't work at a funeral home. Work for a funeral home. I am an independent, licensed insurance agent. As a matter of fact, Cindy, you probably have it on my information there, and
Mm-hmm.
I should know it off the top of my head, but my license number is actually on my business
I'm going to
card.
show it. Give me a minute. I'm going to show it. Okay. You can continue talking.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it.
So I'm not pro one funeral home or the other. I'm only concerned about your family not being taken advantage of, what's called funeral fraud. So we advocate, our firm advocates for your family when that time comes, saving you 30 to 40% on your funeral when that time comes. In addition to that, what we also do is we shop your funeral. So if you're dealing with funeral home XYZ, we're going to go to funeral home Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo and see, well, Alpha is going to do it for 20,000. How much would you guys do the same exact service for? They tell us, we give that information back to your family, and then you decide. You can stay where you're at if you want to pay the 20,000. If that's what you want to do, then so be it. But we give you the information so you can make an informed decision. But it would make sense if you're going to save $10,000 or $5,000 or $8,000. I don't care if you're going to save $100. If that's going to save your family and that money stays in your family's pocket rather than in that of the funeral director, then why would you not do that? So I hope that answers your question, Miss Martha.
Does that answer your question, Martha? He's an underwriter. He's an independent underwriter. Is he an agent or he's an underwriter? Period. Answer
Yeah.
the question.
Yes. The answer, Martha, is yes. I am a field underwriter and I'm a licensed insurance agent and an advocate for seniors. So everybody breathing needs my help. And if you don't, it don't gotta be me, but if you don't have help from a person like me from my particular firm, then there's a good possibility that your family may be taken advantage of. It doesn't cost you any money to sit down and talk with me, but you better believe that you're gonna need your checkbook, and make you do when you go talk to the funeral director, because he wants his money right now. Right now. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what if you did absolutely nothing? What if you did absolutely nothing? Then what? You die tomorrow. You go to work tomorrow. You have an accident at work. You're out of work 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or longer, or worse yet, you die. And you got little Johnny sitting at home. What's that gonna look like for little Johnny? All he knows is mama's not coming back home. What then? These are questions that people don't typically ask themselves. Well, I don't want to talk about death. Well, guess what? We're all going to die eventually. So if we don't plan, we fail to plan and we fail to take care of those that we're leaving behind. Is that what you want your legacy to be? Those are the kind of questions that we ask people. Why is this important to you? Why now? Why are we doing this today? Why now? Why didn't you do this 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago when it would have been cheaper?
So Martha asked, so you sell me a policy and you are the same underwriter who will approve it?
Correct. So Martha, if you sit down with me and have a conversation and I explain to you exactly who we are, what we do, and how we help families, and we can devise a plan that makes sense to you and works with your budget, because everybody I talk to is on a budget. I don't care how much money you make. Everybody's on a budget, right? We're going to do a 3-way verified phone call to our home office, which is located in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's a 3 to 5 minute call. And this ain't a situation where press 1 to get this, press 2 to get that, press 3 to get. No, they pick up the phone within 60 seconds. And about 5 minutes after that, you know whether you're approved or not. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's really that simple. We try to make it as easy as we possibly can. We really do.
Wow.
That's a great question.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh my gosh, we can go on and on and on. But do you the viewers have any more questions? But I want to ask you, I know this is a very touchy subject for you,
Okay.
but I'm going to ask you either way.
Mhm.
What motivated you, or what inspired you to get into that line of work as an
Wow.
underwriter?
Yeah, that is
And
a
if you don't feel comfortable answering it, don't.
no. You know what? It's important because that's why I do what I do. My goal is to help every family. If there's 10 people in the house and I only help one, that means there's 9 people where they gonna have to figure it. Somebody gonna have to figure it out for them. That don't make no sense to me.
Mhm.
So what I will tell you to that question, that's an excellent question. It is a sensitive question. Back in 1992, I was a young fella, still in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, newly married. Um, excuse me, that's not accurate. Oh, I'm in a whole lot of trouble right now. The long and the short is my grandmother went into the hospital for a routine checkup, and she never came out. She never came out, and we were told that she had an aneurysm uh, while she was in the hospital. And to this day, I don't believe that. I can't prove it, but I don't know. The problem was when she passed away, her husband of some 50 years, my granddad, he didn't have any coverage in place. He didn't have anything in place to take care of the family in the event. And my mom uh, is the middle of 3 girls, including herself, and then she had 4 brothers, and she's the middle child. So at that time, and I'm being transparent here. At that time, she was working at the Red Cross for several years, and and this is in '92. The funeral, not including the cemetery, was about $7,000, $8,000. So she had to go into her 401k. This is a big deal, especially for all the young people. This is a big deal. If you are 59 and a half years of age, 59 and a half or younger, and you try to take money out of your 401k, let's say you need $50,000. You better ask for 100 because they're going to take 49% of whatever you ask for. That's a big deal. So my mom had to get a loan of her 401k to pay for the funeral. And I already told you it was about 7, 8 grand, just the funeral home, not including the cemetery. So the difference we had to make up as a family, right? The point is she didn't have any plan in place. 6 months after that, her husband died. So if there was no plan for her, there was no plan for him. So we had to redo what we just did 6 months prior. So I said to myself, that's a problem. I need to figure out how I can be a part of the solution and not the problem. So in 96, after struggling several times to pass my state boards in Pennsylvania, I was actually licensed, and I started working for an insurance firm at that time, representing the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And I worked for a while, and then I moved here to Georgia, and I found the company that I'm with now. Well, actually, I say they found me, and and the way that we help people is the way that I feel like I'm supposed to help people, because you shouldn't, your loved one, you do not want to leave them the legacy of having to figure it out because you kick the can down the street. I'm gonna do it later. I'm gonna do it later. And then later you die sooner than you thought you would. Now your family's on the hook. So that's the reason why I do what I do. My grandmother died, no coverage. 6 months later, my grandfather died, no coverage. So we had to do it again. In that was in 92. At 96, I was licensed. And I haven't really looked back since. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. I, I am struggling here. I'm trying to find trying to find Rudy's number for you because he gave it to me and everything just went crazy. Because he left it in the comments, but I'll get it to you, okay?
Okay, no problem.
So Martha has so many questions. What I'm gonna ask you to do, Martha, is to his number is on the screen right there. Sweetie, just give him a call and y'all can talk about it and he can give you all the answers that you need. And it's going to be because I don't know anything about that. Okay. So thank you so much, Carl.
Thank, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here. We have way past our time. You know, sometimes, like you said, we wait for the last minute to do stuff. We procrastinate. We said, I have time. And that's one of the things I said. We don't have time.
Mhm.
We don't have time. So we have got to take hold of the opportunities offered to us, you know, especially when it comes to situations and essentials like this.
I agree.
Yeah.
Cindy, can I leave?
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to tell you one more question, and then I'm going to let you leave your final thoughts with the viewers.
Okay.
What is the maximum coverage somebody can get depending
On their age
on
range.
the yes.
That's a great question. So remember earlier we were talking about age bands, 60 to 60.
Yes.
Just, check that box. For this amount of coverage, check that box. That's a one size fits all type of thing where
Mm-hmm.
where they actually underwrite at death.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? Well, you did your application while you were breathing and you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have those issues. But when you
Mm-hmm.
die, now you have these issues. And if it's an issue for a company, then it could be subject to non-payment when your family needs it most. That's problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that could be a problem for your family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't do one size fits all. We customize a plan that fits your need and your budget, and based on your age and your health will determine what that price point looks like. So if there's 1,000 people on this call, or if there's 10 people on the call, each of those people is going to have their own rate, whether they're male or female. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be the same. The maximum amount of coverage, because we're talking about final expense, is 35,000. That's the maximum that you can apply for. However, you still have the accidental coverage, which is up to 160,000. If you're talking to me, that's what I'm presenting to you. That's exactly what I'm presenting to you, because I don't want your family to experience what my family experienced. When my uncle passed away, no fault of his own. I mean, the guy crossed the median, hit him head on, and the next 6 days on life support, and then he finally passed away. And
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't have what I'm offering. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
he didn't have this. So my family had to pay $6,000, just $7,000 just to ship him up to Pittsburgh where he wanted to be buried because he didn't like the red clay, he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's my uncle we're talking. But when I asked, I got it covered. I got it covered, nephew. Okay. Okay. And it turned out that he didn't. It turned out that he did not that. He didn't plan for that. He may have had, life insurance, yes, but he didn't plan for that transportation piece that fell on his brothers and his brothers' children. Right. So that could be problematic. So 35,000 is the maximum that you can qualify for. But just because you qualify, if you look at that like the Cadillac, right? Or the Porsche or whatever your favorite car is, that's the top of the line, right? Just because you may qualify for the top of the line don't mean that you need to get the top of the line. You're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
help understand, why do you need 35,000? If an average funeral is only 10 to 15, why do you need 35? Are you trying to leave 5, 10, 15 additional to cover food or travel expenses, people coming in from out of town? That's
Mm-hmm.
expense. Somebody got to take care of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, or you trying to put something in somebody's pocket, you know, it might not be $1 million, but that was all you could do. So it has to meet in your budget. If it don't fit your budget, I'm not. I'll tell you, I'm not the company for you. We're not the company. If it don't make sense for your budget, it don't make sense to us. And you might fare better if you dealt with somebody else who didn't care one way or the other. We actually care. In fact, my wife tells me that I wear my feelings on my sleeve. On my, we actually do care. This is not a situation get coverage 3 6 months and it's okay, Carl. Well, when I met you, I was eating steak and potatoes. Now it's beans and wieners. So something got to go, and I'm not letting go of the cable. So this got to go. No, because you still going down. You need this more than you need water, more than you need air. Because if you don't, and you die sooner than you thought you would, somebody else is going to be responsible for footing that bill. And that's not loving and it's not kind. Certainly not scriptural, but I'm not going to get into that. But it's
Yes.
not loving and it's not kind. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about what I do. And
Yes.
if you're looking for a company that really could care less and pay you whenever they pay you, and you're okay with it canceling when you turn 80 and it being a hot, then maybe I'm not for you. We are not the most expensive. We are certainly not the cheapest, but you're going to get what you
Mhm.
and what you're going to get from is value because we do care.
Absolutely. Now, Martha made an interesting comment,
Mhm.
and I think it warrants to be said because sometimes people, you know, the questions and the comments that people make, it can educate us even further. Okay, I think everything is a form of education. So she said the same person typically cannot act as both an underwriter and an agent within the same insurance transactions due to conflicts of interest and the industry regulations.
I didn't follow that. Please repeat.
And let me see if I can put it on the screen for you to see. That's interesting. She said the same person typically cannot act as both an underwriter and an agent within the same insurance transaction due to conflicts of interest and industry regulations.
Okay, so uh, I'm taking that to mean because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes your funeral director is a licensed insurance agent.
Mhm.
You'll never know. You'll never know it unless y'all have that conversation.
Mhm.
So when you come in and you're planning that thing we talked about earlier, pre-need, well, who's going to tell you that? Somebody's going to tell you that. Either he's licensed or somebody under his umbrella is licensed to provide that program for you.
Mhm.
So in some cases, you could very well see that. Now, there might be something that you know that I don't know. Um, you might have to dig a little deeper. That's not really much more that I can give you than that on that question. But that's a good question.
Okay. That's a good comment because I wasn't seeing it properly then. But she also said that the conflicts of interest and agent goal is to sell a policy where an undertaker's goal is to evaluate and mitigate
There's
risk of
there's a
for
there's
the insurance.
there's a difference between underwriter and undertaker. There's a difference. The undertaker is the person that's preparing you for burial or preparing you for cremation, preparing to dispose of your remains one way or the other. That's an undertaker. An
Okay.
underwriter is the person that's going to qualify you for a certain amount of coverage. That's based on two factors, your age and your health, both of which he has no control over, zero. So the underwriter, in my case, which is what I am, I'm a field underwriter. I can tell based on my level of questioning and training if you got something going on. And then when we make the three-way verification, I'll give you a prime example. This just happened to me today. Okay. I sit with a gentleman on Tuesday. He tells me he's taking medications. I said, okay, no problem. Let me ask you these health questions. And we went through the health questions. There's one question in particular that has to do with uh, uh, And it's funny because I'm forgetting right now. But it has to do with Alzheimer's and dementia. He was taking something for Alzheimer's and dementia, but he forgot to tell me that. It's a memory drug.
Mm-hmm.
Lamatine. You can go and research it if you want to. Lamatine. He forgot to tell me that. So today, when we did the three-way verification call to the company, you have to give consent. Do you give us consent to run your prescription history check? Yes or no?
What's happening? Did we
Uh,
freeze?
I don't know what happened. I just saw myself
We
freeze.
froze.
Yeah.
Well, it's cold. We freeze.
Your medical record is your credit report for your medical history. So
Mm-hmm.
with most insurance companies, when you get those larger face policies, the 100,000s and above, they're looking at your medical index report, your medical record. So they see every splinter, every sprained knee, every broken wrist, every time you had braces adjusted, every surgery. They see all
Mm-hmm.
of it. And yes, like Miss Aaliyah's question earlier, they do send somebody out for a medical exam. They do blood, urine, weight index, and all those things because if the face value is a lot larger, right? We're not doing that. We're,
Mm-hmm.
we're not doing that, but we are underwriting you and figuring out what's going on with you before we hit approve. We need to know you got COPD. We need to know that you're taking a medication because you can't remember things. So a person in that situation still approved. They just qualify for a higher price point. And because they can't remember, they're probably not capable of making decisions for themselves. In this particular case, he had a power of attorney. And when I asked him, is this person your power of attorney? He told me no. And it turned out when we did the approval that the answer was yes, which is why he can't make decisions for himself. So we can't talk to him. We got to talk to his power of attorney who can make decisions for him, right? So if there's things that, a person is taking, we need to know that going in because in that 3 to 5 minute phone call, we're going to know what's going on, whether you tell me or not. He didn't tell me that he was taking a memory medication. He didn't tell me that. So he was still approved. We were still able to help him, but it's a higher price point than what he planned for because of his medical situation, which is totally out of our control.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. There are so many questions, so many comments. Oh my gosh, we can spend all night here. You know that this is very interesting. But one of the things that Stephanie asked, let me see, what questions are there? Um, what do we have here? I can't go through all of them, but Aliyah said great information. Carl said always good to have someone who cares. Stephanie said, I think that was really interesting. She said, explain your position as as a field underwriter. Excuse
Explain my position as a field underwriter.
me.
Okay. So you're starting to freeze a little bit, Cindy. I think the question was explain my position as a field underwriter. So as we were saying earlier, um, I'm the guy, and there's men and women that do what I do, obviously. Um, but I'm the guy that comes out and we have a face to face, a one on one, kitchen table, eyeball to eyeball. And I'm going to ask you a list of questions. And what I need to know is how is your health? And we're talking about all of the major organs. Are you, as a matter of fact, brain, your heart, your kidneys, your liver, all of that. We're talking about all of it. Your lungs, all of the major organs. Are you taking any medications for any of these organs? Or do you have any conditions? That's underwriting, right? I'm a field underwriter. So I have an idea going in before we make the verification call of what you may or may not qualify for. So you will never see me giving you pricing without doing the three-way verification call from the company because they are actually underwriters who approve or decline you for coverage based on the information that the field underwriter, me, provides them. And when we give consent to your drug history, or excuse me, your prescription history, and let me say this too, prescriptions, because the question came up, well, what if I'm prescribed something, but I don't take it? That's neither here nor there. If your doctor prescribed it within the last 2 years to us, that you're taking it. Whether you're taking it or not is neither here nor there. So your qualification is based on prescribed medications, not what you're taking. And so that's going to determine what you do or don't qualify for. And when we're doing application, we're going to uncover all of those things, including, are you taking any blood thinners? Not are you taking something for high blood pressure, but are you taking any blood thinners, which are designed to prevent clotting in the body? You know, so if a person says, yes, I'm taking blood thinners, you'll still qualify, but you're going to qualify at a different price point than a person who does not take blood thinners, if that makes sense. So a field underwriter is that person, myself, which is what I am. I need to know. Again, if it don't come out in the wash, it's going to come out in the rinse, one way or the other. One way or the other. And that's what I do. You know, Cindy, my job is to, my goal daily, and my family hears this all the time. They could probably say it better than I can backwards. My goal is to leave people in a better situation than what I found them. And I think I told you the same thing, right? So when I leave your home, my goal is to take this burden of your family, because the coverage is on you, but it's for them. So my goal is to take that burden and put it on my shoulders when I leave your house. You can go on to the next problem because this is taken care of. And because we've made it such that it works within your budget, where that price point that you have is going to remain in place for the rest of your life. The only time it ever changes is if you add more coverage or decrease coverage. That's the only time it ever changes. So you have a benefit and the price point lock, right? My goal is to take that burden away from your family. This is not something you want to get and 5 minutes later you want to let it go. And then you die sooner than you thought you would. Now your family got to figure it out. And that can be a bad day. A bad day. So that's what I do. That's what I do. I can't hear you, Cindy.
There's a cough trying to dominate my life. Okay.
But I'll be happy to talk with anybody that has a question, a comment. Like I said, it doesn't cost you anything to have a conversation with me.
Mm-hmm.
Fact.
And it is good that people share ideas, people share what they know. You understand? Because at the end of the day, we can always learn from each other. We can always learn from each other, and I think it's important that no matter who it is, we bring this kind of information to people. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we bring this kind of information because we feel that there is a need for insurance. There is a need for life insurance. There is a need for this kind of, I call them essentials and necessities.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to find the people who are going to be fair and going to be willing to work with us, and who's going to save us the back too. Yes. So I put his credentials on there for anybody who wants to check him out and research him, do whatever you want, because we could stay all night and then we would have all these questions and whatever. I can't stay too long anymore because I feel like I'm dying. Yeah. So, Kat asked a very important question.
Okay.
I think that's important. He said, is there a way to pull from your insurance and use it before death?
Now that's a fantastic question. That's a great question. I'm glad that he asked. You said that was Kyle?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Kyle. So the short answer is yes. Do we recommend it? No. So let's say for the reason why, let's say for instance you have, I don't care what the amount is, but just for example purposes, you have a $20,000 plan, and it typically takes 3 years before you start to accumulate with whole life, before you start to accumulate what's called cash value, right? You usually start to see that around year number 3. And every year it starts to compound. So a person could decide, well, you know what? Transmission went out on the car, or I need new tires, or I need a new roof, or whatever, but I don't have the money. Oh, I got that life insurance policy. Can I pull some money from that? So you'll simply call the company and see if you're eligible to do that. But let's say, for instance, you took 10 of that 20, and then you die sooner than you thought you would. What then? Your funeral is 12,000, but your loved one only got 10 now. So now they got to come out of pocket the extra 2 because you took it to do whatever you took. So yes, you can do that, but we don't recommend it. We don't recommend it. And most companies don't really recommend that you do that, but you do have it available to you. Yeah. With term policies, that's not even an option because it doesn't accumulate cash value. Only whole life does. That's a great question. Great question. Thank you for that, Kyle.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much to all my viewers. Thank you so much to all those who commented in the chat and who are just engaging. That's what we want. We want questions, we want comments, we want people to engage, because when you ask questions, you learn. When you comment, people can learn from it. So it was really amazing. Thank you everyone for being on Poetry and Perspective with Placide with Mr. Carl Brown Jr. My dear friend and brother, I appreciate you coming over here to enlighten people about what you do. Now, not everybody will agree, but at least you give the information and you leave it there. People have a choice as to what they want to do with it, you know. And so I thank you. This show was brought to you by my brand, Rise to Prosperity. And I also have under my brand, Poetry and Perspective with Placide, Cindy Sense, and also my book, cindyplacide.com. You can visit my website, Cindy Placide, to get a copy of my book. And also, this is being streamed on Instagram as well. And also on what's the other one? YouTube. Yes. So if it is your heart's desire to give some stars, that's fine. If it is your heart's desire to, I appreciate you. If it's your desire to subscribe to my page, you can go right ahead. But I am looking always for people who have such amazing information to give to the public. A lot of times we don't understand what we're missing out on, and it can take one person to help make our lives better, make the situation better for us. Okay, so with that said, I want to say thank you so much again. Before one more comment, just reach my question. And yes, insurance agents can act as underwriters in some situations. They can be the first line of defense in underwriting, and they can help underwriters with more business. Explain it. Okay. Sorry. Explanation binding insurance agents can provide immediate coverage to clients who meet the insurance risk requirements. These guidelines. You see, I have eyes, I still cannot see. Underwriting guidelines, agents should understand and apply the underwriting guidelines to the carrier they represent. Risk assessment. Okay, I can go ahead. But thank you so much. No, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm going to leave you with this before Carl give his final piece of advice for everyone who's watching, both who are present here and those who are in the background and watching live, the public. You know, life can be hard. Life can be distressing. But when we take care of the things that we need to take care of beforehand, it makes the process for our families so much easier. And Carl, I thank you so much for presenting this information to us. Okay. Remember, what is I gonna say? Okay, remember, right? Hold on, my brain. Okay, yeah. Remember, my famous slogan, like the slogan for my show is "Let your voice be heard." Let us hear what you have to tell us. As long as we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion, we don't go in depth of it, we can have a conversation. Let me promote your business. Let the public benefit from what you have to offer. Okay. And then you make your own decisions. We don't discriminate. We just want everybody to be informed and educated. My slogan for my business is there are no tap outs. Failure should never be your finality. That should never be the place you stay. Rise to your prosperity, whatsoever that may be, physical, financial, spiritual, whatever that may be. Your growth ends when you stop trying, when you give up. And lastly, don't leave your story behind in the grave. Put up a resilient fight and conquer the seemingly unconquerable. Let your light shine with humility. You deserve it. Okay? So I'm going to leave that final thought to you, Carl.
Wow, that was outstanding. That was impressive. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm hearing that, I think, for the first time, and that you probably said it to me often, and I don't even realize it. That was heavy. That was deep. Yeah. So in my particular field, because I'm in a people business, my job is to help as many families as I possibly can. Right? It's my job to help as many families, the entire family, because the one thing that we all have in common is that sooner or later, especially where we don't do any planning, sooner or later, eventually, we're all going to fall asleep in death. And what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? And you don't have to do all this. Like my grandmother used to say, buku, I want buku. If your budget don't allow buku, then do what you can to have a decent and respectable service for your family, such that they don't have to figure it out. My job is not to, though it happens, my job is not to tell your family that you failed to plan. They're going to see that when they see that. So help me help you, help those that you love to take care of the things that you need to take care of. And this is definitely one of them. Everybody under the sun, everybody under my voice, eventually, you and your family are going to fall asleep in death. The question becomes, do you want to deal with all of that burden yourself? Do you know what to do, who to call, when to call, and why should you do it this way? Do you know the laws, rules, and regulations? Why things cost the way that they do? If you need help, then I'm willing to help you. And it doesn't cost anything for me to have a conversation with you. In fact, your plan doesn't go in place until your initial premium is received by the company. So we recommend that you don't wait. We recommend that you don't continue to kick the can down the street. Put something in place for those that you love now. And if it's the minimum you can do, then do the minimum. Later, we can fix that later. If you have nothing, you're taking a chance, and you're taking a chance with somebody else having to figure it out. Help me help you figure it out. I'll be happy to.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time with you this evening. I appreciate it.
That was beautiful. Beautiful. So I just wanted to say, risers, with my resilient risers, one of my favorite motivational speakers is Little Brown, and I love the way he speaks. He said, if you are going to fall on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. And I personally feel as long as there is a breath in your body, you can keep going. So have an amazing night, my resilient risers and prosperity builders, and wake up to tomorrow, to new opportunities and amazing possibilities, because there are a lot of people who didn't wake up today, and each day is a blessing that we can breathe. Have an amazing night. We love you. Good night.
Thank you, Cindy. Good night.
Okay, wait 1 second, Carl. Okay.
Okay.